So here we're going to continue talking about intoxication caused by molds. Molds produce certain chemicals and pathogens with over 300 identifications. So again, you can see at table 3.5, it will tell you more information about particular molds, the latency period, so the duration of it, the principal symptoms, typical foods associated, modes of contamination, and ways to prevent it. Most of this bacteria can be killed by proper cooking temperatures. Now this funny little graphic that says, "Don't eat your spinach," and then this little kid says, "There is a God." There's been some type of recall because of a potential cross-contamination. So just a funny little thing to try to break it up. Here are the top 5 pathogens that contribute to domestic acquired foodborne illnesses. So norovirus was the top due to produce and shellfish. Salmonella is common in eggs, poultry, and meat. I know when I was little, I used to make cookie dough and eat raw cookie dough, and my mom would always tell me, "You're going to get salmonella from the raw eggs." And then continued on, you can see a lot of it is due to improper temperatures as well as poultry. So again, we did talk about proper hand washing, but food temperatures is another big issue. So true or false, bacteria need food, moisture, time, and ideal temperatures to grow and multiply. That's absolutely true. Temperature is very important. We have this thing called a danger zone. So from 41 degrees to 141 degrees Fahrenheit is the danger zone, and this is where bacteria can multiply and start to grow. So we have certain bacteria that are thermophilic, which love heat, or they are mesophilic, which is a moderate temperature heating, loving. So you can see here they're all throughout showing you that there's different bacteria that like cold conditions, different bacteria that like warm conditions. They also do require oxygen. Now some can grow without the presence of oxygen, but others do like to have that oxygen. So it's important to control the microbial growth using oxygen requirements. Moisture is another one. There are some that love salt. There are some bacteria that love sugar. Yeast, like your breads, for example, molds are going to easily grow. pH level is another area to consider. Very low acidic foods, so pH under 3, tend to grow low. Bacteria tend to grow high at pHs above 7. Some different nutrients, so by definition, these cannot be manipulated in food systems without affecting the supply to the people. Some other types of foodborne illnesses can cause allergies. This is largely due to proteins not being properly metabolized within the body. Some common allergies are milk, eggs, wheat, and soy. They can, however, be outgrown. Peanuts, tree nuts, fish, shellfish are more likely to continue throughout that lifetime. Now, gluten, a lot of people don't understand what gluten is, and gluten is a major wheat protein found in wheat, rye, and barley. It is just a strand of proteins and is not a synonym with wheat, but rather a protein that is found within wheat. Egg whites have a large ovoalbumin, which then causes digestive issues. Milk, it's due to lacking some type of enzyme to break the bonds between the sugars in milk. Viruses need a living organism to survive, so these are all going to be transmitted via the oral fecal route. So let's say a food handler goes to the bathroom, wipes their bottom, and then does not properly wash their hands, and now they're preparing food. Now this prepared food can become contaminated. Another way is that it can pass from person to person or through other carriers such as flies or food, water. Now some examples of viruses would be noro. It's contaminated shellfish, food handlers, water, heating destroys this bacteria. So again, you can see that not only is washing your hands properly, but making sure that food stays within that proper temperature is very important. Parasitics, so there's a couple different ones. Some ones that people mostly hear about is the roundworm, and that's going to be from undercooked pork. Again, overemphasizing the fact how important it is to properly cook your food to the correct temperature. Table 3.7 has the different parasites that cause foodborne illnesses. Again, it's the same thing where it has the actual foodborne illness, the duration period, the principal symptom, the typical foods, the mode of contamination, and then how to prevent that. Now, looking at some other naturally occurring toxicants, you can see that there's a bunch of fancy names. I'm on slide E here, and we can get them from the grain skin of potatoes, or cottonseed, or pufferfish, or fish liver oils, and raw egg whites, and all of these different areas that can potentially cause issues. So, true or false, the best way to defrost meat is to leave it in the kitchen sink until ready to cook. This is absolutely false. The best way to thaw meat is in the refrigerator. If you can't do it in the refrigerator, then putting it in a sink with running cold water is the best modality to thaw. Or you can thaw it in the microwave and then cook the meat immediately. However, the gold standard or the best way to thaw meat is putting it into that refrigerator. Now here listed is the ideal temperature control for different frozen foods and fruits and vegetables, meat and poultry. It's important that all of these items stay within this temperature zone to decrease microbial growth. Boiling kills most pathogens, and boiling is above 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Holding food between 140 and 212 degrees inhibits growth and reproduction, but some can not survive. The danger zone, as discussed earlier, is 40 to 140 or 41 to 141, depending on what source you're looking at. And this allows growth and reproduction to multiply quickly. And I'll be showing you a chart in just a second. The cooling zone is between 32 and 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So when you're cooling a large batch of, let's say, soup, there's certain time restrictions and temperatures that need to be met. Freezing zone inhibits growth and reproduction, but some can survive. So it's important to understand that just because you boiled something off or you're freezing something, this does mean that there is potential for there to still be that foodborne illness present in the food. Table 311 shows the different temperatures that needed to destroy these microorganisms in different types of foods. The minimum requirement is to hold this temperature for a minimum of 15 seconds. So when you have cooked your poultry and you put in the meat thermometer, you want to ensure that the temperature gauges to 165 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds. Now, it's really important to make sure that the meat thermometer is in the thickest part of that chicken breast and not the thin part, because the thin part will cook faster than the thicker part of the breast. Now, if you move to that next slide, this is showing you how quickly microorganisms start to divide and conquer. So within 10 hours, you can have billions of microorganisms. This increases your risk of getting a foodborne illness drastically. There's a couple of things called a lag phase and a log phase. During this lag phase, it's about under 4 hours, really under 2 hours, where you're not seeing a lot of activity. But after that, it shoots up, and now you have thousands of microorganisms growing in your food. So this is another funny little graphic here showing you how someone is going to get alarmed if they don't wash their hands when they're leaving the bathroom. So we've already talked about how important it is to wash your hands. Cleanliness is essential. Keep surfaces clean, use proper utensils, wash dishes in hot soapy water, and make sure you're using some type of sanitizer. It's important to thaw foods and cook food to proper temperatures. You want to make sure you're cooking those meats thoroughly and using a meat thermometer to ensure that you are cooking it to that minimum temperature. Cook fish and eggs thoroughly and make sure that you wash and replace kitchen towels and sponges often. Whenever you're marinating meats, make sure you keep it in the refrigerator. Now, a HACCP plan is a hazard analysis of critical control points. This is a 7-step principle to identify potential risk of a foodborne illness and how to make a corrective action, and then making sure that you document. The most common source of foodborne illnesses in a child care setting comes from improper hand washing, improper temperatures, improper cooling of hot foods, infected workers, so if a worker is coming to work sick and then working, and cross-contamination. So as we talked about that in the first video, when you are using that same knife to cut your raw chicken and then you cut your fresh produce. To prevent this, you want to make sure that you're washing your hands often and thoroughly. Cook and cool meats to the proper temperature. Clean and sanitize the cutting boards, work surfaces, and utensils. Ensure that you are refrigerating and freezing breast milk and discard any that's left in the bottle. Formula as well. You never want to reuse something if the baby didn't drink all of it. Discard baby food if it's past its use-by date and opened in the refrigerator for more than 2 days, or if it's opened at room temperature for more than 2 hours. Really, the significant part there is a 2-hour window. If food has been left out for longer than 2 hours, we need to make sure that we're controlling for that food temperature. Here's a list of all of your meat products and the minimum temperature that is required. You can see that beef steak should be cooked to a minimum of 145 degrees Fahrenheit, and poultry needs to be a higher 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Frequent hand washing is essential for staff, children, and the surfaces of food and prep. Proper refrigeration is key to ensure that decreasing the microbial growth. And then making sure that you're properly storing away the cleaning products and any contamination potential.